Right. Hello, welcome to today's webinar. We'll give it a few minutes before we get started. As everyone gets settled, we will put a link in the chat to a pre-webinar survey for all of you all to complete, and just give it another minute and we'll begin started. Thank you. All right, looks like a good time to start. So good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. My name is Destiny Mitchell. I'm with the LISC National Economic Development Team, a senior program officer leading our BDO network. Today, we have an exciting webinar for you all. Today, we're focusing on supporting and empowering consumer packaged goods, or CPG, entrepreneurs. We have our partners in 10 here with us, and we're going to share a little bit about our BDO network before we get started, and one of our key partners for this initiative, Kroger, one of the programs that we've been running with this initiative. So before we get started, just a little bit about our BDO network and what BDOs are. So BDOs help both emerging and established businesses launch, operate, expand, and create jobs within their communities. Many of us on the call know that because many of you work at these organizations. But just to give you a little more context about LISC BDO network, at LISC, we prioritize our BDOs for their deep community roots, trusted relationships, and understanding of local entrepreneurs' unique challenges. For the LISC BDO network, we started a few years ago, primarily during COVID, and that's when we realized there was a need for more than just grants for small businesses, but we realized that these small businesses required a lot more hand-holding, a lot more technical assistance, in training, and this keyed a lot of our direct investments into business development organizations. And so from that, our network has really grown over the years. We've conducted various network surveys, intake processes to identify the needs and wants of some of these organizations and needs of small businesses. And so programs, toolkits like this have grown out of those type of surveys and needs. So we're providing a lot of training, peer learning opportunities, and access to critical funding to promote sustainable growth for all of these organizations. And so today, I wanted to share a little more about the CPG Toolkit. It provides a comprehensive insights and practical tools to navigate the CPG market, supporting small businesses in your communities, which you'll learn more from our experts on the call today. But this collaboration has really been with the Kroger Foundation, and we're partnering with Kroger to help strengthen food systems in underserved areas like Chicago, Houston, and San Diego. So we're excited that this collaboration supports small businesses in the food and beverage and consumable product sectors. And we're just excited for the webinar we're having today with our partners here. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to our partners here at N10 to kick us off for our webinar today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Destiny, and thank you everyone on the line for joining us. I'm going to start going over the agenda, and as I do so, I invite you all to share in the chat box your name, your organization name, and your role at your organization so we can start getting to know one another. Once we finish up our introductions, we're going to give you all an overview of the BDO Toolkit. We'll talk a little bit about who it's for, how to navigate through it. And then we're going to go take a deeper dive into each of the topics that are included in the BDO Toolkit so that you have kind of a lay of the land of what to expect when you open the digital copy and how to use it within your organization. We'll cover the roles of navigator, connector, champion. We'll finish off with talking about some case studies and close out with resources and industry trends. We encourage you to ask questions in the chat box as we go along through the presentation. We want this to be conversational and to elicit dialogue and best practices. If time allows, we'll also unmute mics to allow for some Q&A at the end before we close out in 1 hour.
Okay, all right. So I guess real quickly, we should introduce ourselves, not only as Intend, but as co-conspirators or collaborators, whatever you want to call us as it relates to creating this toolkit, not only for you all, but also for entrepreneurs. So my name is Selena Pena. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm the founder of Intend, and Margot is my co-partner as it relates to helping design and create what we're presenting today. We also had our colleague, Ryan Saltz, who joined us in this creation. And honestly, our background, I served as a Women's Business Center director, so did Margot. And Ryan actually ran Break Fast and Launch, which was an accelerator program specifically for food and CPG businesses. So it's been such an honor to be able to work with LISC and with Kroger to create this content. And we hope that it helps you in your navigation and stewardship with your clients. Margot's going to be leading this, but I'll be managing our Mentimeter and the chat. So I look forward to learning a little bit more about you all. Margot, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Selena. And thank you, Destiny, for kicking off today's webinar and sharing more about LISC resources for BDOs. For those of you that are just joining us, we're going to use the acronym BDO frequently throughout this webinar, and it stands for Business Development Organizations. We're also going to frequently use the acronym CPG, Consumer Packaged Goods, as this toolkit, along with its sister toolkit, are geared specifically towards those types of small businesses. So just a little reference before we get started. We will be using a platform called Menti. It's an interactive app to help us do some polls in today's webinar. So if you have a moment, please either copy and paste or click on the link or open the QR code from your mobile device. And we'd just like to get a better sense of who all is on the line today. Selena just dropped the link in the chat box as well, so you can easily navigate to Menti from there. And we're going to launch our first poll just to learn what services your organization offers to current or aspiring small businesses that make and sell food and beverage products or other consumer packaged good products. So we have a couple of different options for you to choose from, including coaching, counseling, or advising services, group webinars, classes, presentations, or other training programs. Perhaps some of you on the line offer specialized accelerator programs that target CPG. Many of you, we already know, do a great job connecting folks to community resources and online tools. Perhaps we have some folks today on the line that offer access to capital for those entrepreneurs that are looking for funds to launch or grow their businesses. And then our last one is events or marketing campaigns that promote CPG businesses. Great, let's take a look at our poll results. So it looks like right now we have a good majority that are playing the role of conveners to connect to community resources, industry connections, and online tools, followed in a close tie with access to capital. So great to see some CDFIs, microlenders. Perhaps we have some banks or credit unions on today's call. And then lots of group webinars and training programs. Excellent. Well, thank you all for participating in that first poll. And as our new folks are joining us, we invite you again to add to the chat your name, your organization that you represent, and your role in that organization. We would love for this to be an opportunity for you all to network with one another and take a look at who else is on the line that you may be able to share resources and best practices with. So if you selected any of the responses in our poll question today, this toolkit is definitely for you. If you don't already offer these resources, perhaps it's something that you strive to do within your organization in the future. So we think you'll find some good ideas and some value throughout this toolkit. The toolkit is already posted and live online, but we're going to walk you through what the table of contents looks like. And to give a little bit of background on our process for developing this toolkit for BDOs, I see some familiar names in the chat box. So thank you to those of you that responded to our BDO survey that we conducted way back in April. Feels like light years ago. But we appreciate your responses in letting us know in your communities where there were challenges, best practices that you saw, where you saw CPG entrepreneurs succeeding or struggling. All of those insights really lent themselves to what we decided was important to put into this toolkit. I also see a couple of names on the line that helped us in May in our co-design workshop to kind of go through some of those survey results and say, does this resonate with you? What would you like us to expand on in the toolkit? And some of you even helped us to develop out some really great case studies that help to bring the ideas and insights to life through real life stories of clients of yours and how you help those clients through the services that your BDO offers. So this is a snapshot directly from the toolkit. It shows you the table of contents. The first thing I want to point out is that this is meant to be a digital publication, so it's very interactive with lots of hyperlinks. You can see along the bottom navy blue bar, you can easily navigate to different sections of the toolkit. Each of the chapters is hyperlinked. If you want to go directly into the resources or directly to the case studies, you can do that. We want this to be easy for you to find and locate the information that you need and to refer back to at any point throughout your role in your BDO. You'll see that we focus on 3 different sections. First and foremost is navigator. So this section is all about your role as a Sherpa, so to speak, for your small business clients that are launching and growing CPG businesses. Then we get into the connector role. So we saw a lot of great responses in the poll that the majority of you are already known as conveners within your own communities, meaning that you have a lot of great partnerships with other nonprofits, perhaps with online resources, perhaps you've already started forming partnerships with retailers. So we touch on that in the connector section. And then in the champion section, this part is all about the role that you guys play as cheerleaders for small businesses and really helping to give a voice to those underserved businesses, specifically in the CPG sector. All right, so that's a little bit about the table of contents. And I'll pause there to make sure we don't have any questions jumping out in the chat box.
I think we're good.
Great. So let's go into this first section, which is navigator. So again, you can navigate to this either by clicking on the hyperlink in the table of contents or along the dark blue bar at the bottom of the toolkit. And again, this section is really about the one-on-one guidance and technical assistance for your small business owner clients. So we're going to jump to another poll within Menti. So again, if you'll pull up the website, which is in the chat box, or you can go to the QR code on your digital device. And we have that chat message top of the box. So I'm going to give everyone a few minutes to respond. This might be a trickier question if you haven't looked at your client data recently, but just a rough estimate. We want to get an idea what percentage of your existing clients at your organization are in the CPG sector. So anyone that's marketing or selling food, beverages, cosmetics, home goods. Give us a rough breakdown.
Let's see what this is shaping up as.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, this is very different from our last webinar. We have a lot more in the 25 to 50%
Mm-hmm.
that have existing CPG sector clients. So that's really great. And we will love to get some insights and best practices from you all on the line. For those that are in the less than 25%, we hope you get some good ideas out of here on how to market to CPG business owners and perhaps how to grow your program or service base specifically for those types of clients.
Cool.
Great. So in the navigator section, this is a snapshot of the topics that we cover. Again, focused mostly on technical assistance. First and foremost, we talk about how do you market services to CPG businesses? So where to find them, how to tailor some of the language that you use. We also talk about, where you can network or present at either association events, community events that may have a high concentration of CPG businesses. Then we get into the client intake section. Many of you may already have an established client intake process, but we do a little more elaboration on some questions that you might want to ask in your client intake to gauge, where a CPG business owner is currently selling their product. What do their annual sales revenue look like? These are all ways that you can get some baseline information to help gauge growth and impact specifically for these types of businesses. This next section is CPG client resources. So this is where we actually make a lot of reference to our companion guide, which is the CPG Toolkit for small business owners. And we're going to break that down in our following slides. Programming, in this section, we actually share a lot of the results from the surveys from the business owners that we did back in April. We surveyed a lot of entrepreneurs that are already in this space or have just opened businesses in the CPG space to learn what are the top areas that you wish you had stronger knowledge or resources in. So we share that with you in the toolkit so that you can use it to help guide, okay, here's some topics I might consider offering for webinars, or perhaps I might look at an accelerator program that touches on these different parts of business that relate to CPG owners. And then we wrap up the navigator section talking about client outcomes and milestones. So again, this ties back to your client intake process, but we also talk about the importance of doing surveys, keeping notes on the progress that your clients make as they journey along with you and your business development organization, so that you can have some really strong numbers and data to show the impact that offering support services to CPG businesses produces. Great. So I said we'd break down a little bit more on the CPG client resources. So this is where I want to share with you guys a snapshot of the table of contents from our Business Owner Toolkit. So LISC has been really great about publishing both of these on the LISC website. And many of you may have seen in the calendar invite or in the Zoom registration that there's an easy hyperlink that navigates you to the Business Owner Toolkit so that you can have that at your fingertips. We encourage you to share it out with your clients. We encourage you to keep it on hand as you're doing consultations or working on developing your programming for the upcoming quarter. But this is what it includes. We break it down into 4 stages of business. We start at starting a CPG business. Then we go into scaling your CPG business. And then really the meat and potatoes of this guide are in the entering retail. That's where we get into a lot of the nuts and bolts of things like merchandising, building sell sheets. We talk about how to even find a retailer that's a compatible fit with you, how to adjust your pricing. So this is a really great stage to focus on for those that are already, up and operating. They've tested their product. They have an idea of how they where they want to sell. Focusing directly on stage 3 again is great for those that are in this space. And similar to the BDO toolkit, we've made this full of hyperlinks so that you can help your business owners easily navigate through the different stages, sharing the link with them online so that they have this at their fingertips. And then stage 4, we touch on developing your network. So what I want to share right now is snapshots from the BDO toolkit that reference each of these stages in the Business Owner Toolkit. What we thought would be helpful and what we heard in feedback from our conversations with many of the BDOs was that checklists were effective to help kind of gauge what are the key elements that my client should have in place in order to build a successful and sustainable business. And so let's get into stage 1. We're going to share a snapshot of what that checklist looks like.
I would also add, Margot, just that we know that the pathway sometimes is a mix of each stage, right? And so by creating a toolkit that allows folks to jump where they are or go back and forth easily, was something that as providers we knew was important to our clients, so that they could take snapshots or pieces and nuggets and create their own roadmap, if you will, based on where they are, because some may be sophisticated in one area or the other. So think about it that way, that if I'm meeting with Margot and she's actually in business but needs to take 2 steps back but is a little bit ahead, we're hoping this toolkit can help you navigate that kind of relationship successfully. And so the 101 approach grew into these 4 areas that I think we believe make good sense too.
Absolutely. It's not always a clean and linear journey. Almost never is. So again, this pulls 5 to 10 important items from each stage, but the point Selena touched on is a really good one, in that even if your client is already up and
Pay
operating, you may have to go back to the stage 1 checklist just to verify, did they actually obtain their EIN number, or are they still operating under their social security number? Maybe they're already selling their product at farmers markets, but they haven't set up a separate business bank account. So this doesn't just have to be for those that are in their first few months of getting ready. This may be for someone who already has a year of operations under their belt, but visiting this stage again to just go through these checklist items with them, and then being able to share with them, well, here's the toolkit to learn a little bit more about what each of these items entails. And we definitely encourage you as BDOs to share the resources that you've developed that are really pertinent to your community, especially when it gets into things like licensing and permitting. It's going to vary for every city, every county, every state. So this is where we would really rely on your BDO organization to match the client with those resources. And this is just something to complement what you've already developed. So stage 2, the scaling stage, as we refer to it in the toolkit, this is where we heard a lot of comments from both our business owners and our BDO partners that it's one of the most difficult stages for CPG businesses, especially in finding options for where they can do large volume manufacturing or production of their product. So in stage 1, when they're just testing out the product, they may be using like a cottage food law to create their product out of their home kitchen. They might be sharing a commercial kitchen with another business, but once they get into this stage where they're really ready to ramp up production, we found that a lacking resource in many communities is knowing where to go, what their options are for co-packing, co-manufacturing at volume. And also helping them figure out what are the pros and cons about doing that in-house versus outsourcing. So we give a breakdown in the Business Owner Toolkit and some tips for how to do that as a BDO using your own local resources of what you know is available in your community. As many of you, I'm sure, are aware of with any type of business, the scaling stage really is a time to help the business owner take a close look at their finances. And do they have the capital to be able to scale successfully to this next stage? So we provide some tips and resources for things like budgets, projections, what are some of the new costs they should factor in, what are some of the things they should factor in with pricing. So all good stuff in the scaling stage. And then we go into stage 3, which, as I mentioned in the Business Owner Toolkit, is kind of the meat and potatoes of getting into a retailer. So the checklist that we share with you all in the BDO Toolkit is, asking them some of these questions. Have you taken a look at what retailers might be a best fit for your product? Have you done some secret shopping to see where those products fit in the aisles? Who are the competitors? Do you have some strong sales data already behind your business to take and build a sell sheet to present to a retailer to say, here's the amount of volume that you were doing. Here's some reviews that we have from current customers that proves that our product has traction and that there's demand for our product. And in this stage of business, we really emphasize the role of BDOs as a connector in helping to build relationships with other industry experts and retailers, as that's often the hardest part, is just getting their foot in the door to get secure meetings with these retailers. So we talk a little bit about tips on how you can start to build those relationships, but also being realistic that those relationships could take months, they could take years, even for your BDO to build. And so helping your client also understand, it might not be a short and simple process, but don't give up. And these are the ways that we're going to help continue bringing up your name or continue giving you a presence and exposure so that your brand starts to become recognized.
Margot, I would just add in terms of your comment from stage 2 and thinking about whether you have a standalone CPG program or other industries, like what does your resource checklist look like? Mm-hmm. And we found over the course of just during this project, there's informal and formal CPG networking programs in many cities. So thinking about what you may not know, but there may be resources that can connect to packaging locations that are affordable or for scaling and appropriate. So make sure you carve out some time to just get a sense of, here's the checklist. Now, what should be complementary from your location?
Exactly. And that's also going to help inform in this stage 4, as you're helping those entrepreneurs build their own professional and personal networks that will help them grow, encouraging them to get connected with those partners that are local. And they may not just be local. It may be some great online national resources that you help connect them with. We have some recommendations that we share in the resource section of both the BDO and the Business Owner Toolkit. But as customized as you can help to make those, that's really gonna help your entrepreneur, something that you can do, homework wise, so that they don't feel so overwhelmed with where do I even start to find these connections. In this stage 4, we also encourage you to bring those entrepreneurs back to some of your own events. Perhaps you have some mentorship programs, or perhaps you have some workshops where businesses that you've helped through their trajectory, they can come back and share stories, best practices, resources that were helpful to them with new entrepreneurs. So it really comes full circle, and developing your network is an important part of that life cycle. Great, so let's get into this next section. This is where we discuss the really important role that BDOs play in building relationships with key players in your small business ecosystem in your city. And so we're going to do another poll. Again, we have the link to Menti in the chat box. Some of you might already have it up on your browser or on your phone. We've actually broken this poll into 2 separate polls just because there's so many options to choose from. So first, we'd like to hear from you all about partnerships that you've already built with public entities. And so when we refer to public entities, we're thinking of city and county government, state government, the SBA, resource partners, certification agencies, colleges and universities, elected officials, and then of course other BDOs that are doing parallel or similar work to you, or complementary nonprofit community organizations. Awesome. Looks like you guys already have some really solid partnerships, and these can be informal partnerships that are, you know, as simple as referral basis, or they can be formal partnerships. Perhaps you have a contract or an MOU with one of these groups. I'm impressed to see so many city and county government partnerships. That's great.
Yeah, and the certification agencies outside of the government also could be a really great route if they're like the Walmarts and the Krogers of your backyard. So it's always good to get a sense of what that looks like.
Yes, absolutely. And if anyone would like to share in the chat box of these partnerships that you have with public entities, if there's anyone in particular that's really stood out to you, that's helped you to either build programming or get well connected with resources that have benefited your CPG entrepreneurs, we'd love to hear about that. And we're going to launch our second poll, which is focused on partnerships with private entities.
Mm-hmm. That one's open now.
Yeah, going back to Menti, let us know if your BDO has formed partnerships with complementary nonprofit organizations, business service providers. So when we talk about business service providers, we're thinking lenders, CPAs, attorneys, marketing firms, anyone that you might be inviting as subject matter experts, as referrals for a directory that you might have. Also, let us know if you currently have partnerships with commercial or incubator kitchens in your area. Co-packers, producers, manufacturers. And then last but not least, we'd love to get a sense of how many of you have built relationships with retailers, whether it's at the local level, a regional level, or national level.
Are you seeing the results, Margot?
I am.
Okay, cool.
Great. Lots of good partnerships with business service providers and subject matter experts.
Mm-hmm.
And
we've got 5 co-packers or producers, so that's good.
It's good, and it's also not surprising because we did hear in our surveys and conversations that this was an area that is lacking in many communities.
Great. So let's go back to presentation.
And I would say same thing with the private partnerships. If any of you have examples you'd like to share of private partnerships that you've built that have been really effective, we'd love to hear about them in the chat box, just to help seed some ideas for others.
So we've got Daniela, who had a Spanish pitch competition with the city of Houston.
Nice.
And Nick has, well, you're an incubator kitchen in Dorchester, and you work with universities and hospitals. That's great.
And
Yes. Thank you both for sharing.
yes. All right. We're going to move on to the champion section. So in this section of the BDO toolkit, we touch upon the importance of BDOs really being a collective voice for small business owners. So whether this be educating elected officials on the impact and challenges of CPG businesses to help inform policies, or maybe it's advocating for traditionally underrepresented CPG entrepreneurs to help them gain access to buyer networks, which are really difficult to break into. These are some of the aspects that we touch on in this champion section of the toolkit to give you some ideas. We also give recommendations for how you can champion CPG businesses through the creation and implementation of buy local campaigns. So I did want to just get a show of hands in the Zoom navigation bar at the bottom. You'll see reactions. And if you've ever implemented a buy local campaign in your community, let's see a raise of hands, or you can share in the chat box. Awesome. I see 2 hands raised so far. Great. So we may have quite a few on the call that haven't done a buy local campaign. So this is an example of one resource that we share in the toolkit that gives you kind of a high-level breakdown of how you could go about promoting your CPG clients' products within your community. And a big part of that starts with educating the community on why it's important and impactful to buy local, and then doing highlights on those business owners, their stories, why their product's unique, and really helping to get their brand out there can be a great boost, you know, not only for recognition, but also to their bottom line as well. So this is an example of some tips that we give in the toolkit. And we also, in the resource section, link directly to the American Independent Business Alliance that has some really robust resources on how to build out a buy local campaign. They even have fact sheets that you can download to share. And so, you know, this is a great way to, again, be a cheerleader for those businesses, particularly in the CPG sector.
Yeah,
All right.
there's one that was shared in the chat if folks want to go see the Houston Made by Michelle. She just shared that.
Okay.
And what's cool about being an ambassador or advocate is you can do it alone or you can do it within an ecosystem, right? And so we've seen several organizations create like their own microsite for their client base, right? And this example shows that it's much broader and is a community-driven approach. So either way, and it doesn't even have to be either, it can be both, right? That allow for your clients to be found as well.
Excellent. So now we get to my favorite part of the toolkit, which is the case studies. So we did some great interviews with 3 different BDO organizations and their clients to highlight these ideas and tools in practice. So I'm going to give just a short preview. I won't get into all of the details because we'd love for you guys to download the toolkit and read the full stories. But the three stories that we touch on include Million Cakes and Baker Ripley. So shout out to Baker Ripley. I know we have a few folks joining us today. And they shared a really great story about their client, Lorena, who started a cake business. When she saw a demand in her community just outside of Houston, there was a lack of cakes that represented her Latino culture. And so she started baking for friends and family and evolved that into a business with the help of Baker Ripley's resources. And where we really focus this story on is access to capital services that Baker Ripley provided, not only from a technical standpoint in helping the business owner get ready with financial projections and consider the different options she had for financing, but they also played a really critical role in connecting her to a community development financial institution for her first loan. And to a traditional bank for her second loan when she actually purchased her own building where she now manufactures her product and has retail outlet there for folks to buy her product. So this is a really great illustration of how BDOs can really play an important part in a business owner's journey from seed funding. That's another great resource they offered was a pitch competition where she actually received money to be able to seed the startup of her business. But then they stuck along by her side as she grew from 1 to 2 locations and then bought a location. And what kinds of relationships they had to build in order to make that impact. We also share a story about Kamal Jarrett. He's the owner of Hillside Harvest. He has a great product that is Caribbean hot sauces. And we spoke with the team over at Commonwealth Kitchen and had a really great discussion about programs that they built out, specifically targeting underrepresented small business owners. And how they went about seeking out buyers at retailers and starting to form those relationships so that they could be an advocate for their clients that were utilizing their kitchen, that were coming in to take their classes. So not only helping them through regulatory challenges to say, okay, here's where you need to get your permits, here's where you need to get the licenses, but then also inviting them to be part of roundtables that they would do with buyers at regional and national chains to really get their foot in the door and give them that step up that they may not have had otherwise. And then the third story we share, I think we have Katie Menifee from FCCDC on the line, and we had a great conversation with her that highlighted actually the fact that in their community in Massachusetts 20 years ago, when they were assisting small business owners that were in this food manufacturing space, there was a scarcity of resources for co-packing facilities and even commercial kitchens. And so they built out the Western Massachusetts Food Processing Center as part of the services within their CDC. And so now they're able to help a really great number of food entrepreneurs and farmers, not only by having access to affordable equipment and space to test out their ideas before they go on to full volume, but also giving them that practice to say, okay, how do I need to make adjustments to my packaging? Maybe my brand isn't strong enough. So they have an accelerator program that they offer. So without giving any more away, these are just some great best practices that came out of these case studies. And we also talk about what impact did that have on the entrepreneurs themselves. So we encourage any of you, if you would like to share a story of a client that your organization has helped, we'd love to hear from someone on the line. And feel free to raise your hand so we can unmute.
We've got some folks in the chat, including Katie, or Kate herself, from Western Massachusetts. As someone is thinking about a story, if you want to share, I would say, well, these are not only good examples from just the BSO, but it's the BDO. It's also how could you build out programming yourselves, right?
Mhm.
And so ideally, this is a complementary to what you're doing, but we also know diversifying industries and aligning with both public and private agencies helps your organizations reach more people too. So keep that in mind as you're listening and also looking and taking a look at the toolkit too.
Definitely. And to piggyback off that, we actually share some keyword searches for you all in the resource portion of the toolkit. If you don't currently serve CPG entrepreneurs and this is all fresh and new to you, it might be hard to even think of, well, where do I even start? And so in our resources section, we share keywords like just Googling, where are there commercial kitchens? Where are there incubator kitchens in my region, in my state? What are, some of the resources out there that address things like food safety? Are there nearby food labs? What are the food permits and licenses in my area that I should help my clients to be aware of? And then just also knowing about the vast amount of BDO resources that LISC has on their website, not only to help you with the TA portion, but also in networking and learning from other BDOs that are in the same space to get some ideas. Well, I put everyone on the spot for the stories, but we encourage you to check out one another's websites afterwards, and please download the toolkit so you can read the stories in depth. And this is just a snapshot of, as I mentioned, the resource page within the toolkit where we link to national resources that aren't specific to any one region that we feel are kind of key resources to have in your pocket as you help clients navigate. This is also where we provide some examples of those keyword searches in the connector section, and also encouraging you to look into other BDOs and SBA resource partners that might be in your area. Many times they may have an advisor or a counselor that specializes in food and beverage businesses if you don't have one on your staff. Or if you do, offering your resources and specialization to these SBA resource partners or other BDOs to say, we know you can help them with all the fundamental business stuff, but when they have challenges or questions that are specific to food and beverage, send them our way. And then we also share some resources in the champion section, particularly around building buy local campaigns, and then also referring you to the plethora of resources that are within LISC's resource library, and recommending that you take a look at a report that LISC co-authored with the Urban Manufacturing Alliance that talks about seeding, starting, and scaling local branding initiatives. All right, well, I'm going to pass it back over to Destiny to share some follow-up items.
Right, awesome. Thank you so much for the robust presentation. I hope each and every one of you got some content to take with you. We really want to encourage you all to use the toolkits. Now that you've heard a little more about them, please take them, use them, incorporate them into the practices you're doing every day, supporting entrepreneurs. And I do want to highlight that there is also a toolkit for entrepreneurs, for CPG based entrepreneurs. So I want to make sure that you all utilize that toolkit as well. So we have the one for the BDOs, that's for you, your staff to use and implement, but please, 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 and we'll send it out in the follow-up email. Also use the one directly for entrepreneurs to share with those businesses you're working with, because it does have a lot of substance to meet. Thank you for putting it in the chat. It's in the chat there. And then one thing I want to share is please sign up for our newsletter. That's where we put all of our upcoming BDO webinars so you can stay connected. We put additional trainings, additional funding opportunities. It is full of robust information. So please stay connected and sign up for that as well. While you're listening to me, I also want you all to, if you can, do a post-webinar survey. The link is there in the chat as well. And please keep sending chats there because everyone's still looking at it. Our team is still looking at those chats. And the last resource I do want to share, one program that we work intimately with is called Verizon Small Business Digital Ready. It is a program that has a lot of resources for entrepreneurs. I looked at partners on the call. We have several partners on the call that are doing this program now, and it's really a free resource created by small businesses for small businesses that LISC has worked to implement over the past 3.5 years across the country. So we work with a lot of partners across the country using these modules and courses and coaching opportunities to empower their small businesses, whether they're coming to trainings or whether they're coming to trainings and getting one-on-one counseling, or if they want to just focus on advancing their small business outside of one-on-one counseling, just so they can learn more. So I wanted to put that in there. It's Verizon Small Business Digital Ready. I put the link in the chat. Please look at it, explore it, reach out to us if you have any additional questions about that. But there are a wealth of resources that we do have. We want to make sure outside of specific programs, so we really thank Kroger for allowing us to do this. We want to share all of the resources with each of you on this call. So thank you all so much. In 10, is there anything else? All right. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good one. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.